Greetings, dear suckers. My name's Joe Bob, and I'm very peeved. And welcome back to Disco Elysium. Last time, we had a rather wacky chat with this diplomat over here about whatever random crap that came to mind, and eventually we, got around to talking about the case. Unfortunately, she won't say anything more because I don't have my badge, even though he definitely does. And, well, it's a pretty weird situation. I think she's managed to out-wacky me with this nonsense. Anyways, now I don't know. Talk about other random crap. Sure, why not?
Good. What can I help you with?
Tell me about Wild Pines. What do you do?
What we do? I'm afraid I don't speak for Wild Pines as a whole. It's a giant undertaking.
Alright. So, what do they do?
The Pines' core competency is logistics. Container shipping, freight, that sort of thing. See those airships there, blinking? Those are the shipping side of things.
Okay.
And that is the terminal. Another subdivision deals with energy, oil and gas exploration, offshore platforms.
The Wild Pines Group is one of the original Revacholian Indo-tribes. Companies awarded royal monopolies by the king, the suzerain himself, centuries ago. The king is long gone, but several of the Indo-tribes remain.
Ah, yes. Royal monopolies. Yeah. Who are the other Indo-tribes?
Son Baptiste, Elysium, an unknown entity known as Brightest Star.
Brightest star, huh? You're in good company, it seems. Is that a pun?
Why, thank you.
She does not register the real meaning of the remark. How much money does Wild Pines have?
I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year, the company booked more than 20 billion real in revenue.
Alright, that sounds pretty cool. I have no idea what that actually means, but it sounds cool. I have no idea what the strength of the real is. That could mean $20 trillion, or it could mean 20 cents for all I know.
A billion?
What exactly is a billion?
It's a number, officer. A big one.
What is it made of? That's either a really smart question or a really stupid one.
It's made of 1,000 millions. A million is made of 1,000 thousands.
Ah, so they're not using long billions then. That is good to know. It's possible that it could have meant a million millions and all that. Numbers like that mean nothing to me.
Yes, past a certain point, numbers begin to seem imaginary.
Yeah.
But they are quite real for the 72,000 employees who depend on Wild Pines for their paychecks. A conglomerate the size of Wild Pines is like a shark. If it stops moving and growing, it will die. Then what becomes of those 72,000 families? It is a tremendous responsibility.
Well, people say that about sharks and all that, but it's only a small subset of sharks that's actually true for. Yeah, only like a couple dozen species at most. Which, considering there's well over 500 species. Yeah. Ram ventilation, which is what it's called, or at least what it's sometimes called anyways, is not very common, and for good fucking reason. The only reason it's so well known is because some of the sharks that are the most well known and most used in popular culture, like great whites and hammerheads, have that. And of course, they can stop and not die, just like you can hold your breath. But never mind that. Where does Wild Pines get all these billions?
They started as an exploration and cargo fleet conducting trade between the Samaran and Insulindian Isolas 250 years ago, when pine ships explored the South Seminese and charted Lormantang on behalf of the suzerain.
Huh.
Centuries of care, deliberation, and madness have gone into this endeavor.
Madness.
Vessels pass through the great unrest to re-emerge with apricots in tow. The logic of the system is totalizing. It's taken everything from its employees to build it.
It probably helps to start out with a royal monopoly.
You know more than you let on.
I know more than I
Certainly
know.
it helped, but most of the original Indo tribes have failed or been absorbed. To survive, Wild Pines had to grow and adapt. No suzerain did that.
Fair, but... yeah. But that's all. That's the point about, you know, these sorts of advantages. Like when it comes to people who are children of rich people, it's not like a, or people who are the children of wealthy families, for instance. It's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantor of success by any means. Many of them fail horribly. But, and yet, well, the truth is, reality is, well, never as totalizing as people would like it. Reality is, well, never as totalizing as people would like it to be. It's never simple. Never. Not until you get to the... Not unless you could separate a single particle, yeah, even a single individual atom is made complex by the way it interacts with everything around it. Which is why, as I say, like, theoretically, a single pebble they pick up off of the beach could if you know enough about, well, pebbles, you could probably infer the existence of the entire universe. But I'm getting a bit too astronomical there. What does such a huge system want with a place like this? Look around.
You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners, who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo?
8% of all cargo in the world? That's quite the endeavor indeed. You don't keep it working the workers. You don't keep it moving the workers do. The company is nothing without them. Well, yeah, but the same could be said of any group ever. All groups are collections of individuals doing individual things. And you would do well to remember that. It's not the workers that keep it moving. Even that is an abstraction, just as much as the company is. It is each individual person. It is Joyce. It is... I don't know anyone else that works for the company. It is, but it's also me and Kim who keep the peace, enforce the law, and ensure that it can and ensure that it exists in a place where it can exist as a company instead of, well, who knows what it would be without law and order. I don't. But we're backtracking here. 8% of all cargo in the world. That's quite the endeavor indeed.
There are no minor cogs in the system. Each terminal must be accounted for,
Indeed.
lest the entire system break. Every hiccup in such a system means thousands lose their jobs, the world over. I'm here to assure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, alright. Wild Pines, Feld, Cupri, Tricentennial, Villiers, and LaSalle. Names of Revacholian Indo-tribes spring into your head, set loose at the mention of Wild Pines. royal monopolies, octopuses, and swordfish, most of them gone now. YBP, Expander, Saint Baptiste, Brightest Star, Lum, Resplendent, East Insulindic, Welter, and El Cassette. But isn't one missing? Wait, no. There were only 14. Then why do you feel like there was a 15th Indo tribe? Why indeed? What did the 15th Indo tribe have a monopoly over? Candles? Well, I don't have... Sadly, I don't actually have a skill point spare. Oh well.
With your help, hopefully, says her warm tone.
Huh. What can you tell me about this strike?
Everything. Right up to, but not including, trade secrets.
Wait, what if I want to hear about trade secrets?
First, you'd have to repeal the Emergencies Act of Trade in Aliments. That gives me the right to silence. It's quite the octopus.
Wouldn't want to disturb an octopus. Better let it be.
I am glad you see it that way. To repeal the act would mean repealing the coalition government. The one that leases you the right to police West Revachol.
You would be shooting yourself in the foot, in other words.
Alright then.
But I am derailing us. You wanted to know about the strike.
Technically, I was derailing us, but alright. What is your role in this, precisely?
I believe the official title is Senior Labor Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk. I relay the union's demands to Wild Pines and return with Wild Pines' counteroffer.
And how are the talks going?
Poorly?
They're not.
Oh.
That's the problem. The union stopped all negotiations a week ago, after that awful lynching took place.
Huh. Interesting. They stopped negotiations entirely. Right after they lynched a dead guy, presumably in order to take credit for his death. There's something there.
Now they won't even let me into the harbour. There's a 2-meter-20 racist behemoth blocking the gates.
You mean Jean-Luc, my race mentor? He's a great man, a man of virtue. Let's not. How are the talks going before the lynching?
Let's say I was not making the kind of progress I'd hoped for when I first arrived.
Yeah, considering it's been lasting for months so far. Yeah, fair enough.
And when did you first arrive?
I arrived 3 weeks ago.
Oh.
Yes, in the middle of February. The bay was still partially frozen then. I prefer to do these things on site, like the RCM.
Fair enough. Adept racers such as yourself would have no problem navigating the partially frozen waters, I imagine.
But the strike began in December.
He looks at his notes. So what happened? Did they not? Why would they only send a negotiator so late? Or did they send a negotiator? And if so, what happened to him?
I wasn't the original negotiator here.
Yeah.
I took over after Mr. Gaumont hit a wall with Mr. Clare, the union boss. Mr. Clare refused to speak with Gaumont despite concessions he'd granted the union in prior negotiations.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Sometimes no matter how how reasonable you are, no matter how much you give these people, they just decide to fucking stonewall you. Because they want the entire pie. Yeah, well.
This isn't the first time the union has gone on strike.
I'm not surprised.
Heavens no. There have been 2 prior strikes.
Only
Both
2?
times the union won significant concessions, including overtime pay and a medical plan. This time their demands are more, I guess you could say, aggressive.
Oh my. Overtime pay and a medical plan. How luxurious. What happened to this, Gaumont?
Mr. Clare told him to... How did he put it?
She pauses to compose herself.
Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see.
Not cool.
Keep in mind, this is a negotiator Mr. Clare has worked with before, and who was more than fair with him and the Union.
Sounds like usual aggressive posturing.
What are the demands?
There are leaflets everywhere, and banners. What did they say again? Oh yes. Every worker, a member of the board.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how that would even work.
Most of the workers probably don't know what that means.
Indeed. Over-aggressive commie posturing. It's hard to argue with that assessment. Well, actually, no. To be fair, ascribing such an ideology to them might be overly generous. It's naked grasping for power is what it is. I wish I could say that. I'll just choose. I don't know what to think about that.
Fortunately, they explained it. Every time the Wild Pines group makes a decision about anything, it needs the signature of each of the 2,200 workers in its Martinez terminal.
Ah. Okay. I see how it is. They have no intention of actually stopping the strike, do they? That's just an excuse. That's just an excuse to keep the strike going until you give in to their demands, which obviously you never are going to, because what the fuck is that even? How on earth would you even do that? So yeah, it's the strike that never ends. They're...
Just so you understand, this is but one of 22 terminals owned by Wild Pines. Essentially, not only are they kings of the company, they are also kings of the 72,000 employees of Wild Pines Group.
That's pretty funny, I have to admit.
They're having a blast. But how can they afford it? After 4 months, my assumption was they would prefer a more practical solution.
I mean, if they were going to ever accede to a practical solution, they wouldn't have put forth that idea in the first place. Or they would have dropped it pretty quickly if this was some sort of aggressive negotiations platform. No, they have no intention of ever ending the strike. Of anything. They're... This isn't a strike. This is a secession. Kind of a weird sort of secession, but... Also, I just noticed that the time isn't moving. What the heck is that? The deal with that? Just stopped at 2. That's weird. What are you gonna do?
I'm not sure. Naturally, I assume that was just their opening position. A hard-nosed tactic with a side of mockery. But there's been no follow-up, just the same nonsensical slogan repeated over and over again. And now, people are getting lynched, I hear. Behind the whirling in rags. A disastrous situation if there ever was one.
Excuse me, from whom did you hear about this lynching?
I first heard it from the bowyer at the gates. The one whose very name advertises his aversion to work. I think he said it was, "Call me mañana."
Yeah. Mañana, by the way, means... Well, it literally means in the indefinite future. But it's used to indicate procrastination, essentially.
This checks out.
Yeah. The scabs at the gate. Did you put them there?
The scabs? You mean the huddled masses of Jamrock, come to plead for work where the Union refuses to?
Yeah, them.
If they were organized by Wild Pines or its affiliates, then it would be a company secret. I could not share it with you.
Fair enough.
Not right now, at least.
It's implied she's open to discussing this matter with you at a later occasion.
What do you think of Everard?
Everard Clare is a man of the utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he always puts the interests of the workers first.
Really?
Of course not. Everard is
Yeah.
fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, viscous goo where you and I have blood.
That's Everard, alright.
He is the most corrupt individual I have ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there is anyone more venal, more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar.
Wait, there are two of him? Oh, Builder, preserve us.
Edgar looks exactly like his brother, except for that lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Everard does, and when one's term as foreman is up, the other takes over.
Yep. That sounds about right.
It's how they circumvent the term limits, you see, with a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues.
I wouldn't be surprised. See, this is why... this is why America has a very strict 2-term limit. No getting around it with fancy switcheroo nonsense. Well, actually, the reason why it has that 2-term limit is probably because... just because George Washington didn't want to go on to a 3rd term and wanted to go and retire. But that's certainly one of the reasons why it became enshrined in law. Or at least that's why there is a term limit at all. Whether or not 2 terms is the right term limit is... well, who knows. What about the Union itself, outside the Brothers Clare?
The Débardeurs Union was once a perfectly normal institution. 20 years ago, anyway. It must not have been easy to establish under the Emergency Act. But they did it. I can respect that. Organized labor at its best, as they say. Then something happened in the local chapter elections. The Brothers Clare came and transformed it into a... how do you say?
She hesitates, looking for the right expression. Complete fucking snafu?
A mob.
Yeah,
The Débardeurs
that
are a
works.
crime syndicate. Sad as it may be, we are forced to cooperate with them.
And maybe that's the reason behind the whole strike. Maybe they've just become confident enough that they think they can just... that they don't need to rely on the company at all, that they can secede from it and just run this whole town themselves as a just out and proud organized crime syndicate.
Refreshingly honest, officer. The company has tried appeasing in the past, but I'm afraid our concessions have only emboldened Everard and his brother.
Yeah, it's as they say on the cold shore. You don't dissuade hungry dogs by throwing them meat. Eventually, you're gonna run out of meat, and they'll devour you. If they even wait that long. Now, of course, humans aren't dogs. And you'd be a fool to forget that. But they are animals. And you'd be a fool to forget that, too.
And your opinion, detective, if I may ask? I'm a curious and talkative person, you see. Would you say the Débardeurs Union is...
An effective advocate for the rights of local workingmen, a giant leech sucking the life out of Revachol, basically a socialist mob. I agree except the socialist part. I prefer not to have an opinion on things. I say a giant leech sucking the life out of Revachol. That sounds the most accurate.
Indeed. And a hungry one.
Indeed.
Sadly, Wild Pines have cooperated with what amounts to a crime syndicate for 2 decades.
Alas.
However much you feed the leech always hungers.
Yeah, like I was saying. One more thing. You said something happened in the elections?
I'm glad you asked. There was a woman, the previous forewoman of the Union. She disappeared.
Oh?
Disappeared?
Or was disappeared?
Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore. Or coming to work. Ever. End of story.
Eerie.
Downright haunting, if you ask me. The Wild Pines suspected foul play.
They'd be stupid
but
not
what
to.
could they do? It was a union matter.
It sounds more like a matter for the police, to be honest.
The point of the presentation is, these kinds of things happen around the Clares. Watch out when you're dealing with him.
I will.
Thank you for your concern, ma'am. We'll be just fine.
That's all I need here. Let's change the topic.
Of course. How else can I help?
Let's see. Do you know something about these tattoos?
That's the man who was killed. I'm afraid this is a discussion for once we've cleared the lynching question.
She almost takes a photo, but then stops. So you know something about the tattoos?
Better not tie the fourth day to the back stay on this. I hope there is something else I can help you with.
She wants to answer the question. Protocol keeps her from it.
Okay, then. By the way, I've talked to Everard Clare.
You have? And how did you like Mr. Clare?
I didn't.
Oh, come on now. He has his uses. How else would he have stayed in power all these years? Or wait, actually,
She answers her own question.
corruption. That's how he's done it. Fantastic, würm-like corruption, reaching into the bowels of the earth.
She looks at the ground and nods. It's hard to argue with your assessment.
The position of my unusual colleague does not reflect official policy. I hope you understand. The RCM does not pick sides.
Well, I should hope we pick sides against crime organizations.
Of course. And I don't expect you to share anything he told you with me. I'm not a corrupt würm myself. However, if you felt like discussing something... How could I stop you? Are we not human? Are we not curious to hear another person's take? It's only natural. We would only be gossiping.
Okay, I get it. Laying it on a bit thick there, ain't you, Rejoice?
Intellectually speaking, it would be quite interesting to hear what she has to say about these things.
True. But would it be a good idea?
Yes, your disgusting necktie agrees completely. Let's gossip.
Why is the text so inaccurate so often? He said necktie, not just tie. That money you gave me, would that make things weird? If I shared information, I mean.
Weird? Oh no. One of the positive things to come from the revolution is the unhindered exchange of information, you see, even when it comes to trade secrets. Which isn't to suggest our talks constitute corporate espionage. Even if they did, it would be fine. But they don't, since you logged the money as a donation, and this is clearly just gossip between friends.
The lieutenant might have, but I don't remember you logging anything as anything, Harry.
We're friends then, are we, Joyce? Damn. Stuck in the friend zone once again. Mr. Everard is helping me find my gun! Should we really be telling people that we don't have a gun at the moment? I mean, I doubt she's gonna try anything, but... Sure, why not? This is a plan with neither flaw nor any possibility of error.
Oh. That's so helpful of him.
Her eyes become large and round. Isn't it just?
The lieutenant looks at you, and you can swear his jaw muscle is trembling.
Hey, you told me to be wacky. By the way, Joyce, those large, round eyes look good on you.
When I said be wacky, I didn't mean wildly, grossly irresponsible and damaging to the RCM.
But then you should have specified.
Unconventional police officers sometimes lose their guns. They then go around and tell people about this to gauge their reactions. It's all part of detecting.
Incredible. Simply incredible. And how is it going? Has this detecting produced a gun?
No, Mr. Everett says, almost ready to be found soon. Mr. Everard is helping me find my gun. I just said that. You know what? Sure, why not?
Yes. As you said.
She looks confused for a moment.
Please don't get him in a loop. If he gets in a loop, it will last forever. Ask him to say something else, please.
That's wrong. You don't get into loops.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you for the advice. I'm glad you were here to assist. Your other dealings with Everard are still of considerable interest to me.
The lieutenant will be more lenient toward sharing those, hopefully.
Well, he asked me to open a door.
A referral, you mean? I take it this was for someone in the RCM. Don't answer that.
I actually lied that I opened the door. I didn't really do it.
Stupendous.
She takes a little bow.
Pulling one on the old worm. Commendably done. And did this trick yield anything interesting? I assume it was necessary. For the case.
Detective, I advise you to be very selective with what information you choose to share. This may have consequences beyond our line of sight.
Union militant wing organized lynching. Everett says the Wild Pines sent mercenaries after the Union and now one's dead. Everett asked the Union's militant wing to fully cooperate with the investigation. He didn't seem worried about the whole conflict that's developing.
I wouldn't have taken Everard for a saber rattler. Was he surrounded by Union men he wanted to impress?
No? We were alone.
No, it was more like he wanted things to get worse. In secret, of course.
He wasn't trying to impress anyone. I think he wants things to escalate.
Or he wants you and me to believe he wants to go to war.
Possible.
There's always that risk, man. But if I may offer my opinion, he means it.
Kim's right. I'm pretty sure he meant it.
I'll think it over, Detective. Thank you for relaying this information to me.
She tries to hide it, but some great doubt is spreading within her. There is a crown slowly cracking above her head.
Whatever the fuck that means. What's this great doubt you're talking about?
You can't say, only that she's hiding the magnitude of it from you.
Pop, pop. Ma'am, is everything alright?
What? Yes, of course. Everything's fine. Perhaps there's more gossip you'd like to share.
I'm certainly not going to tell her that, because it's simply... Well, it's not technically not true, I guess. Because I guess what they did might technically be referable to as lynching, and certainly not... The spirit of it certainly isn't true. Let's see. Everard asked the Union's militant wing to fully cooperate with the investigation.
How benevolent. Hopefully they'll help you sort this whole business out, if they haven't already.
We cannot discuss the specifics of an ongoing investigation, ma'am. Besides, you haven't exactly been forthcoming yourself.
Indeed.
That is only fair.
Should I tell her this? I have reason to believe that the lynching was a cover-up. Maybe. Yeah, let's tell her. Why not?
Oh my. Very interesting. So the militant wing is protecting one of their own?
Well, maybe.
Her mind races to the conclusion that most benefits her interests. That doesn't mean she's wrong, though.
It looks like you may untie this knot yet.
Her eyes smile and a tingle runs down your spine. Ooh. I'd like to untangle your knot, Joyce. If you catch my drift.
There's something in you that really likes the way she's looking at you just now.
I'd like to see her look at me like that a lot more often. Anyway, that's all I've got to say.
What you've said is quite enough. You've given me a lot to consider, and may have helped me prevent this conflict from escalating.
Yes. He asked me to deliver an envelope.
Sounds like he has you running errands, Detective.
Quite.
A well-established dominance ritual.
Indeed.
Where did he have you deliver it?
To a nameless settlement down the coast, nearby.
Ah, yes. I've been meaning to go there.
She looks over the bay.
With longing. Clear and simple longing. Strange. Why does she want to go there?
And how do I get her to look at me like that? You're quite fond of this village, aren't you?
I should be. In my youth, I had a brief dalliance here in Martinez. He was an older man with impossibly broad shoulders.
I hope it wasn't too far into your youth then.
He's probably dead by now. Even his shack is long gone. Not that it matters. These buildings are all carbon copies of one another.
Huh. You been to Martinez before?
Yes, I was slumming it with some girlfriends of mine. We had boats and... Don't hold it against me. My paramour certainly did not.
I'd never hold that against you. I'd rather hold other things against you. Sounds like you missed those times.
Not overly so. It's not like this was the only place we visited. Me and my girlfriends from Azon with our shiny boats. Like reavers.
I'm thinking of a different kind of reaver than you probably are.
We told ourselves we were the worst thing to happen to the coast since the Coalition landed in '08. Imagine.
She tosses their head. Oh, I'm imagining it alright. Sounds like the eel's hit, baby. Who wants to build a youth center here? For the children of Martinez.
A youth centre with Edgar Clare's statue on top of it.
Her eyes run across the water, remorsefully.
Go ahead. Help him. Make it so. I have no power to stop him.
So you're sad you can't buy the place? What an odd thing to say.
Yes. I'm sad I'll never have the time, Detective. I've always wanted a dilapidating fishing village.
Same.
She is more defensive about it than usual.
Well, that was a bit of a daft thing to say, to be fair.
Full of ghosts and ancient memories.
But you repeat yourself.
Has this errand yielded you any information?
Not as of yet. I'd rather talk about something else for now, if you don't mind.
Of course, Detective. Should something come up later, down the road, don't be afraid to drop by for a chat. Until then, is there anything I can help you with?
That's all for now. I'll try and figure out the mystery of this stopped clock. But speaking of clocks, this seems like about time for me to end this episode. Next time, I guess we'll head off and maybe pay our tab. Oh, wasn't there some stuff I need to do with the radio? Something to do with that, anyways. I'll do that then. And maybe figure out what the heck is going on with the clock, as I mentioned. So, until then, I have been Joe Bob, and I'm very peeved. And remember, dislike the video, unsubscribe if you're for some reason subscribed, and leave a nasty comment in the comment section down below. Fuck you all so much for watching, and so long, suckers.
You're gonna be okay, kid.